So this is the next video in the Riley Pathfinder restoration, as again this is the rear upper seat, and as you can see this is now all coloured in the grey. Obviously the next stage is we're going to be sanding lightly, blowing off with the airline, and then we're going to be wiping in the maroon colour to get a base. Then we're going to stipple the maroon on and then spray. So first of all, let's just sort of show you what we've obviously done, because we sort of showed you part way through on the last video. We're putting the colour on and stippling it on. As you can see, it's all stippled on, and the tear that you can see here, it's just sort of left a very, very faint scar line just here. So we're very, very happy with that. It's come out really well and it's looking absolutely superb. So we're all ready now for the maroon to go on. So I just need, there's just the odd sort of little area where I can feel sort of like little bits of dust. So I just need to nip those off, nip that in the bud and sort of get those off. And we're not going to be sanding rigorously with this. We're literally just going to be like stroking this over the surface. That's all we're doing. Just very, very gently stroking over the surface, just to remove any imperfections. And then you can just sort of feel that as you're going to see whether, you know where there was some. I can just feel something there, and then just gently stroke that over the surface, and you can feel that that's gone, and that's perfect. So yeah, so that's all you've got to do. That's the next stage that we're doing. So we'll get that done now, and then I'm going to blow that off with the airline, and then I'm going to show you how to start putting the maroon paint on here. So just got to go right the way around the edges, because that's where you can have sort of problems. All the way around the edge. You can get little bits of dust in those edges. I'm just going to lightly, as I say, we're not sanding like a madman or anything like that. We're just literally very, very lightly going over the surface, just to remove any imperfections. And just keep feeling your way as you're going along, so that you can sort of feel what you're doing and feel any imperfections that you can find. There's a tiny bit there I've got to get out. I can feel that. And just very, very lightly sand over the surface. This part can't really be seen or touched anyway, to be fair, so it's, but we will still do the exact same process as we would on everything else. So that feels okay now. I can't really sort of feel anything. We will get more bits of dirt in it that's landing from the air, but we're going to sand those out as we're going anyway with the different stages that we're doing. So let's just get that blown off with the airline. With our airline, we've got like a rubber grommet tip on the end of here, so if you do happen to get your leather, it's not going to damage it or scratch it or anything like that. So it's ideal for sort of getting into pleats and stuff like that on an old barn find, where you've got to get all the dust and grime out before you can do anything. And that'll, if you're doing something like that, always put on goggles, because you will be amazed where it's spitting the dust and grime and grit out. It'll get in your eyes, it'll go everywhere. I sometimes actually put a mask on when I'm doing it, because it throws dust and grime everywhere with the power of the compressor, and it literally goes in your eyes, up your nose, in your mouth and everything. It's awful. It's a bit like being in a sandstorm. So let's now start to get the maroon colour wiped on. So give it a bit of a shake. It's been sat for a few weeks since we did the last sort of big colouring job. We've obviously poured a little bit out to do all the maroon in here, but always give them a good shake if you can. Obviously if you're spraying or if you're going to have it as a final coat, then you would obviously filter all your products before you're using them. So with this, we're not trying to get a coat of colour on here. We're just literally wiping this colour on to build up a layer of colour. Doesn't matter what this looks like, the end result, because the products are self-sealing and self-leveling, the leather repair paints, you're not going to see, like where you can sort of see this is darker here, it's lighter here, and so on and so forth. You are not going to see that on the finished item, because they self-level and it all blends in. The purpose of this is just to get a bit of colour on here, so that we can then stipple a coat of colour on, ready for spraying. If you spill a drop like that, don't worry about it, just mop it up, it's not a problem. And we're just going to carry on going over here and getting this done to the whole seat. If you didn't want to risk knocking your bottle or dropping it, then you can pour some of the product off into a smaller tub if you wanted, into like a little jug or something like that. Then you don't risk, you know, knocking over your full-size bottle and ruining the job and, you know, losing your paint. Doesn't matter which direction you go with this. The main thing is just to get this base coat over this grey primer coat so that we can then start to get it all built up quite nicely. We'll show you part of the stippling, but again, it's a repetitive process. So once we start to show you some of the stippling, we'll stipple a certain area and then we will cut it off and then show you the finished results. And then we'll be ready for spraying. And we're nearly complete on this full process of restoring Israeli Pathfinder for Practical Classics. Well, the leather interior we're restoring anyway. We're not restoring the car. Certainly be quite a nice project. I wouldn't mind sort of getting my hands on something and having a go at restoring something. Just need a garage big enough. Already got cars in the garage at home, so we would need to find something somewhere where we can restore something. It'd be fantastic, I think. How about telling us about your restoration challenges, what you've been doing? That would be quite a nice topic to hear from everybody if you wanted to comment and tell us about your restoration projects and how you've been doing it and, you know, what you've been up to and what you've been doing. That'd be quite interesting. I'd like to hear that. So just carry on wiping the colour on. We'll get the colour wiped on the whole seat so you can see it, or at least this front facing. We won't bother with the just on the sides round here and down the sides here. We'll just do this front facing for you so you can see, because it's going to be the same all the way around anyway. Just carry on wiping that in. We've obviously already done the maroon brushwork in the pleats and things and all the other areas, so we don't need to sort of go back in there again and do that really. Certainly covering very well, and you can sort of see what I mean by how it's sort of shadowing through the darker colour with the maroon being. You can see how translucent the maroon is, to be fair, where we're sort of wiping this on. You can sort of see where it's really see-through compared to how the grey was. When you consider the greys only had like one white coat and then obviously, you know, the stipple coat gone on there, but you can see how translucent the maroon is in comparison to what the grey was. And obviously once we sort of spray this, that will get us into all the little areas that we can't reach. We're doing this very, very quickly with the sponge. If you see like pleats and things, you want to try to sort of get into those as well. Little creases and things, try to get in there with the maroon colour. But that's that, and now what we can do is we'll show you at the other end here, where we're going to just partly start to stipple the paint on here, the one coat, and you can sort of see how that's going to now build up. It's amazing to see it coming alive like this when it's, you know, not only are we restoring it, we've changed the colour as well from the light grey blue to this beautiful rich maroon, which matches its original interior, because obviously the original seats, as we've said a few times, were absolutely shot and couldn't be used. In all fairness, these weren't far from the same sort of condition, but they were a little bit more salvageable than the original maroon seats. But this will sort of give you an idea. Get right down the lines if you can to make sure you got those coloured. There's no real set pattern as to how you're putting this on, you know, in a certain direction or method. As long as you're stippling reasonably fast and keeping the sponge, you know, reasonably wet with paint, so that you can overlap quite nicely. That's all that really sort of matters. And just spreading it around. Don't go sort of like wiping it around now, because you want to try to sort of build the colour up with stippling it on. We'll complete this section and then you can sort of see what it's like, and then we'll get the rest of it done and then come back and show you what it's like in the next video. You just got to keep that stippling motion. As I say, I always try to sort of work with my paint in the sort of leading corner, so that I'm not like affecting the paint that I've left that's behind me or what's in front of me. It doesn't sort of like pick it up. Whereas if it was wet, you know, we found that, you know, in the past that it's going to sort of pull up paint and stuff while it's still trying to cure and bond on the surface. I'll just do a couple of pleats as well so you can sort of see those. It's exactly the same as what we've done in the other videos, but we will show you the pleats as well. So just stipple down the centre of the pleat there first of all to get that covered, and then down the edge here, and then you can start to infill. If you've obviously not got spraying equipment at home, then obviously you can just carry on stippling another sort of probably a couple of coats, and it would be a perfect job. Obviously just remembering to sand very, very lightly with like a 1200 grit paper between each coating of the leather paint that you're putting on here, of the leather repair paint. So there you go. That is the stippling process. We've obviously wiped it on and then stippled the paint on with the leather repair paint. Next stage is obviously going to give it a light sand, and then we're going to be spraying the maroon on, and that is the sort of final stages. We'll probably put on 2 coats of spray paint potentially. Hopefully we'll only need 1, but potentially 2. Certainly shouldn't need any more than that. But that is the, you know, the next stage in the leather restoration of this leather interior on this Riley Pathfinder for Practical Classics magazine. Once again, guys, thank you for following. Please like our videos. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leather Repair UK is the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Practical Classics magazines. The guys down there do a phenomenal job to report to you everything about classic cars that's happening around the world and in the UK. Please subscribe to the magazine. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Our website for all our professional leather care products is leatherrepaircompany.com. Thank you very much.